Imagine this someone lingers in your mind uninvited, like a song you didn't choose to play, yet it loops endlessly. Why? Is it love, a cosmic connection, or simply your subconscious trying to tell you something? What if I told you that this phenomenon isn't random, but a mirror reflecting a part of yourself you're being called to confront? Before you dismiss this as mere infatuation or coincidence, consider this: could the thoughts you're so consumed by actually be a signal of your own untapped potential waiting to be awakened? Stick with me, because by the end of this, you'll see how this fixation might be the universe's way of showing you where to direct your focus, and no, it's not where you think. But first, let me ask, have you ever wondered if the person on your mind is thinking of you too, or if you're simply walking this mental path alone? Have you ever found yourself thinking about someone constantly, yet you haven't spoken to them in days, weeks, or even months? You might be busy with your life, yet their presence keeps lingering in your mind. It's like a soundtrack that you can't turn off, a whisper in the back of your head that never fades. It's almost as if their energy has attached itself to yours, pulling you in without warning. But why? What is it about this person that keeps you trapped in this mental cycle? Is it love, desire, or something deeper, something you might not even be ready to face? You can feel it, right? There's something beyond the surface of these thoughts, something that's pushing you to ask, what is this really about? Stay with me. Because once you understand what's driving these constant thoughts, you'll start to unravel something far more powerful than you imagined. At first glance, this might feel like simple attraction or emotional attachment, but there's so much more happening beneath the surface. You see, when someone is always on your mind without any direct communication, it's not just a random occurrence, it's your subconscious sending you a message. The truth is, your mind doesn't waste energy on things that don't matter. If this person keeps coming to mind, there's an emotional trigger at play that you need to recognize. And I'm not talking about the kind of trigger that makes you go off. Why am I thinking about them again? No, this is deeper. It's a call from your inner self, urging you to confront something unresolved. What's the emotion attached to these thoughts? Is it longing, fear, confusion, or perhaps something you haven't fully processed yet? Ask yourself, what does this person symbolize for you, your hopes, dreams, or maybe even your unmet needs? Recognizing these emotional triggers is the first step to understanding the larger picture. But here's where things get tricky. Not every emotional trigger is easy to see. Sometimes these thoughts come in disguise, hiding behind layers of emotional baggage. You may think you're fixated on this person because you miss them or you're in love with them, but the truth is, it could be more complicated than that. Your mind is a brilliant tool, always striving to protect you, but it doesn't always give you the full picture. It presents you with fragments that are designed to grab your attention. And you have a choice: ignore them or take the plunge and dig deeper into what's really going on. So what's the real reason you can't stop thinking about them? Is it your unresolved need for closure, your fear of rejection, or a deeper, more unconscious belief that keeps you attached to the past? These aren't easy questions to ask, but they're the questions that will eventually lead you to the answers you've been searching for. As you begin to examine these emotional triggers, you might feel a rush of excitement or even anxiety, because what you're about to uncover may not be what you want to hear. But let's face it, isn't that the way life works? We often find ourselves resisting the very things that could help us grow. Here's the thing: the longer you stay stuck in these unproductive thought loops, the harder it becomes to break free. It's like watching the same movie over and over, hoping for a different ending. You know how it ends. You already know the result. But something in you is holding on. Why? Because confronting the truth requires courage, and not just any kind of courage, but the courage to break free from the comfort of what's familiar. You know it's time to let go, but you're not sure how. So what happens next? Here's where it gets interesting. Recognizing your emotional triggers doesn't automatically fix everything, but it gives you the insight you need to take the next step in your emotional journey. This isn't about simply pushing the person out of your mind or trying to force yourself to forget them. It's about creating awareness around the emotions that this person evokes in you. You're not just thinking about them because of who they are, you're thinking about them because of what they represent to you. Think about it. Are they a symbol of past pain? Do they remind you of something you long for but haven't been able to attain? Or are they simply reflecting a fear of being alone of not being enough, or of not being loved the way you deserve? The answers may not be clear at first, but the more you delve into these emotions, the more you'll start to see the pattern that's been keeping you stuck. Now, here's where it gets even more intriguing. The emotional triggers you recognize are not just random feelings, they're revealing to you parts of your psyche that need attention. Perhaps you've been avoiding confronting the deeper issues that, if left unaddressed, will continue to interfere with your emotional well being. But when you start to recognize the emotions tied to your thoughts about this person, you can begin to heal. Healing doesn't mean you need to forget them or wipe them from your life entirely. Healing means releasing the hold they have on you, letting go of the attachments that keep you bound to the past. What's interesting is that once you start doing this, you might notice that the thoughts about them become less frequent, less intense. It's like stepping into a new version of yourself, a version that's no longer defined by the past, no longer tethered to someone who isn't even communicating with you. But before you think you have all the answers, let me ask you something. If you continue to avoid recognizing these emotional triggers, if you continue to ignore the underlying reasons why this person is always on your mind, what do you think will happen? Will you keep living in this mental fog, never truly understanding the source of your fixation? Or will you take charge of your emotions and step into a new chapter? The choice is yours. The longer you resist understanding these emotional triggers, the harder it will be to break free. It's time to face the music and allow yourself the opportunity to heal, to move on, and to reclaim your mental and emotional space. And remember, once you recognize the trigger, you can release it. But the question is, are you ready to face what's been holding you back? Have you ever wondered why you can't seem to shake the thoughts of a person, even though you haven't spoken to them in what feels like forever? Maybe it's been months, years, or maybe it's just been a few days, but somehow they're always on your mind. You might even find yourself thinking, why can't I just move on? It's as if this person has become an uninvited guest in your mental space. The truth is, they might be trying to show you something you've been avoiding, something about yourself. What if the person you can't stop thinking about is actually a mirror reflecting a part of you that you haven't yet acknowledged? Hold on. Before you dismiss this as some abstract concept, let me take you on a journey that will completely shift the way you view your thoughts and your emotions. You see, the reason this person is always in your mind isn't random. It's not some cosmic joke. It's not just a case of infatuation or obsession. In fact, this person may be showing up as a mirror, reflecting something deep within yourself that you need to confront. You know that feeling when you can't get someone out of your head and you start asking yourself, why are they so important to me? What is it about them that draws me in? And here's the kicker, it's not them. It's you. There's something in you, something unresolved, something yearning for attention that this person is embodying. I know it sounds a little too much like a self-help book, right? But stick with me for a moment. Let's break it down. We all have beliefs, values, and desires that we often don't even recognize because they are so deeply ingrained in us. These are the things that make us tick, that shape the way we experience the world. And sometimes when we encounter certain people, they seem to bring out parts of ourselves that we've either neglected or refused to acknowledge. These are the parts that are desperate for healing, attention, and growth. So when this person shows up in your thoughts without any communication, it could be the universe's way of saying, hey, look within. There's something about you that needs to be seen. It's not about them. It's about what they represent. They are the mirror, not the cause. But if you're anything like me, you're probably thinking, well, I don't know if I'm ready to look in that mirror, and that's where the journey gets interesting. Now, you might be wondering, what exactly are they reflecting? This is where it gets powerful. The person who dominates your thoughts could be reflecting your unresolved emotional needs, those aspects of yourself that you haven't fully come to terms with. For example, if you find yourself constantly thinking about someone who has hurt you or caused you pain, they might be reflecting the pain you have yet to fully heal. Their presence in your mind isn't just about the past, it's about showing you what remains unhealed within you. The problem is, most of us avoid these reflections because they bring discomfort. Who wants to face the parts of themselves that they don't like? But the moment you choose to acknowledge these reflections is the moment you take back your power. But what happens when you ignore the mirror effect? What happens when you keep pushing these feelings aside, pretending they don't exist? The mirror gets clearer, not more distant. And the longer you refuse to face what it's showing you, the stronger the thoughts and emotions will become. It's like that nagging feeling in the back of your mind that says you can't avoid this any longer, and the more you resist, the more it starts to control you. This is why acknowledging the mirror effect is so urgent. If you allow these reflections to control your thoughts without ever looking into them, you end up living in a constant state of confusion and emotional turbulence. It's time to take a step back and recognize that person is not just in your thoughts because they are special or important. They're there because they are showing you something crucial about yourself. Let's pause for a second. This is where things can get intense. Think about it. If someone is always on your mind, you've tried everything to forget them, but you can't. Could it be because you're missing the point? Could it be that you're trying to make sense of their actions, but the real question should be, what are their actions triggering in you? Are they triggering a sense of inadequacy, unworthiness, or perhaps a fear of abandonment? Each emotional reaction you have is a clue. Every time you think about them, take note of the emotions that rise to the surface. Are you feeling anxious, angry, or even desperate? Those emotions are the key to unlocking the mirror. They are showing you the parts of yourself that need healing. If you want to move forward, you have to confront these emotions and the beliefs that underpin them. And here's where it gets really interesting. Once you acknowledge these reflections, once you take responsibility for your own emotional responses, the game changes. No longer will you be a prisoner to the thoughts and feelings that have been holding you captive. You begin to see that the person who has been haunting your mind is not the problem. They are simply the catalyst for your own self-discovery. You are the one in control of your emotions, and you can choose to heal, evolve, and move forward. What once seemed like an uncontrollable obsession can now become the very stepping stone to your personal growth. But don't be fooled. This isn't going to be easy. It requires deep introspection, raw honesty with yourself, and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths. You might ask, what if I don't want to look in that mirror? What if I'm not ready to face those parts of myself? Well, here's the thing: you don't get to choose when the mirror is held up to you. It will keep showing up again and again until you take the time to look. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to break free. So if you're truly ready for change, it's time to take a deep breath and look. What is the mirror showing you? What part of yourself have you been avoiding? The reality is, the longer you resist, the more power you give to the situation. But if you can learn to see what this person is reflecting in you, you can start to heal those wounds, rebuild your sense of self-worth, and finally free yourself from the grip of endless thoughts. Acknowledging the mirror effect is not just a chance for growth, it's a chance to take back your emotional freedom. And believe me, once you see it for what it is, you'll realize that you've been holding the key to your own liberation all along. Have you ever walked into a room and felt an unexplainable tension in the air, as if you could sense something unspoken lingering just beneath the surface? Or perhaps you've met someone for the first time and instantly felt a connection, like you've known them forever. What if I told you that the energy we share with others, even those we aren't speaking to, can create powerful, invisible threads that bind us in ways we might not fully understand? And what if the person who's always on your mind, despite the lack of communication, is tied to you through one of these energy connections? Sounds a bit mystical, doesn't it? But it's not magic, it's the subtle but undeniable reality of human energy. And once you understand it, you'll see how it shapes the way you think, feel, and even love. Here's the thing: energy is the unspoken language we all use to connect with each other, whether we realize it or not. Every thought, emotion, and interaction carries a specific energy. It's like Wi-Fi. You can't see it, but it's there, connecting you to others in ways that are both profound and powerful. So when someone lingers in your thoughts, even without direct communication, it's often because an energy exchange has occurred. Maybe it was a conversation, a shared moment, or even just a passing glance that left an imprint on you. The question is, what does that connection mean, and why is it still holding on to you? Is it a bond that's meant to teach you something, or is it one that you need to release in order to grow? These questions can feel overwhelming, but understanding energy connections is the first step to finding clarity. Let's dig deeper into this idea of energy exchanges. Every time you interact with someone, you exchange energy, whether it's through words, emotions, or even silence. Think about it. Have you ever had a conversation with someone that left you feeling completely drained, like they sucked the life out of you? Or on the flip side, have you ever been around someone who made you feel instantly alive and inspired? These are examples of energy exchanges at work. And here's the kicker: even when the interaction is over, the energy doesn't just disappear, it lingers, weaving invisible threads that tie you to that person. This is why someone can stay on your mind long after they're gone. Their energy, in some way, has left a mark on you. Now, you might be wondering, why do some energy connections feel so strong while others fade away? The intensity of an energy connection depends on the emotions and intentions behind it. Strong emotions, whether they're love, anger, or even unresolved tension, act like superglue, binding you to the person on the other end of the exchange. And here's the twist: these connections don't always align with logic. You might think, why am I still thinking about this person? We barely even talk, but energy doesn't operate on logic, it operates on emotion and intention. This is why you can feel deeply connected to someone you hardly know, or struggle to let go of someone who isn't even in your life anymore. The energy between you is still active, still vibrating, still pulling at your thoughts and emotions. But let's not stop there. Energy connections aren't just about other people, they're also about you. Every connection you form is a reflection of your own energy, your thoughts, your emotions, and your state of being. If someone is always on your mind, it's worth asking, what is this connection revealing about me? Are they showing me a part of myself that I need to heal, or are they amplifying an emotion I've been ignoring? For instance, if you're constantly thinking about someone who hurt you, the energy connection might be highlighting unresolved pain or the need for closure. If you're fixated on someone who inspires you, it could be a sign that you're yearning for growth or change in your own life. These connections are never random, they are mirrors reflecting back the energy you carry within yourself. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Energy doesn't just flow between people, it can also become entangled. Imagine two people holding onto opposite ends of a rope. The more one person pulls, the tighter the rope becomes. This is how energy entanglement works. The more you focus on someone, the more energy you send their way, and the stronger the connection becomes. And here's the kicker: this can happen even if the other person isn't consciously thinking about you. Energy doesn't require permission, it simply exists. This is why you can feel tethered to someone even when there's no communication. The connection isn't just in your mind, it's in your energy field. But here's a question for you: if energy connections are so powerful, how do you take control of them? How do you break free from a connection that feels draining or overwhelming? The first step is awareness. You have to recognize that the connection exists and understand what it's trying to teach you. Is it a reminder to let go of past pain? Or is it urging you to step into a new version of yourself? Once you understand the purpose of the connection, you can begin to take steps to shift the energy. This might mean setting boundaries, practicing forgiveness, or even redirecting your focus towards your own personal growth. Let's pause for a moment. Are you starting to see the bigger picture? Energy connections aren't just about other people, they're about you and your journey. They are invitations to grow, to heal, and to become more aligned with your true self. But here's the thing: not all energy connections are meant to last forever. Some are meant to teach you a lesson and then fade away. The challenge is knowing when to hold on and when to let go. And that's where the real work begins. But before we dive into how to let go, let me ask you this: what would happen if you never took control of your energy connections? What if you allowed these invisible threads to dictate your thoughts and emotions indefinitely? Would you continue to feel stuck, unable to move forward? Or would you finally take the steps necessary to reclaim your power and find the peace you've been searching for? These are the questions that only you can answer. Have you ever felt like you're running on empty, trying to meet everyone else's expectations while ignoring what you truly need? Maybe you've been caught in a cycle of giving, sacrificing, and pretending you're okay, all the while feeling something is missing deep inside. Here's a hard truth that most people avoid: you cannot pour from an empty cup. If you've been giving all your energy to people, relationships, or circumstances without stopping to assess your own needs, you're setting yourself up for burnout, frustration, and even resentment. So let me ask you, when was the last time you actually paused and asked yourself, what do I need to feel fulfilled, supported, and at peace, not what you want, not what others expect from you, what you need? Don't answer too quickly, though, because this question has the power to change everything. The first step to assessing your needs is admitting that you've likely ignored them for far too long. Society doesn't exactly make it easy, does it? We're taught that selflessness is a virtue, that focusing on ourselves is selfish, and that somehow everyone else's happiness should come before our own. But here's the irony: when you neglect your needs, you don't just hurt yourself, you hurt those around you too. Think about it. Have you ever snapped at someone you love because you were too exhausted or overwhelmed? Or have you found yourself resenting a situation because it demanded more from you than you could give? These moments aren't failures, they're signs. They're signals that something within you is crying out for attention. But instead of seeing these signs as warnings, most of us push through, hoping things will somehow get better. Spoiler alert, they won't. Not until you take the time to assess your needs. But how do you even begin to identify what you need when you've spent so long ignoring it? Let's start with the basics: your physical, emotional, and mental well-being. When was the last time you truly listened to your body? Do you get enough sleep, eat nourishing food, and move in ways that feel good? Or are you running on caffeine and convenience, convincing yourself that you'll take care of yourself someday? Here's the thing: your body is always speaking to you. The fatigue, the headaches, the tension is all your body's way of saying, hey, I need attention. And yet, how often do we actually listen? Instead, we push through, ignoring the signs until our bodies force us to slow down. But what if you didn't wait for that breaking point? What if you started listening now? And then there's the emotional side of things. This one's tricky because emotions can be messy, unpredictable, and let's face it, uncomfortable. But they're also essential. Your emotions are like a compass pointing you toward what matters most. When you feel joy, it's a sign that something is aligned with your true self. When you feel anger or sadness, it's a sign that something needs to change. But here's the problem: most of us are so busy suppressing our emotions or distracting ourselves from them that we miss the messages they're trying to send. So here's a radical thought. Instead of running from your emotions, what if you leaned into them? What if you allowed yourself to feel, to cry, to get angry, and to ask, what is this feeling trying to tell me about what I need? Scary, right? But also liberating. Let's pause for a second. Are you still with me? Good, because now we're getting to the heart of it: your mental and spiritual needs. This is where things get deep. What do you need to feel mentally at peace? For some, it's clarity and direction. For others, it's creativity and self-expression. And for many, it's simply the ability to quiet the noise of the world and reconnect with themselves. But how often do we actually make space for these things? We fill our schedules with meetings, errands, and obligations, leaving no room for the things that nourish our souls. And then we wonder why we feel so disconnected, so restless, so unfulfilled. The truth is, your mental and spiritual needs are just as important as your physical and emotional ones. Ignoring them is like trying to navigate a storm without a compass. You'll only end up lost. Now, let me throw a curveball at you. What if assessing your needs isn't just about figuring out what you're missing? What if it's also about understanding what you're holding on to that no longer serves you? This is the part that most people avoid because it's uncomfortable. But sometimes the things that drain us the most are the things we refuse to let go of: old beliefs, toxic relationships, unrealistic expectations. So here's the challenge: take a hard look at your life and ask yourself, what am I clinging to out of fear, habit, or guilt? And what would happen if I let it go? Scary, isn't it? But also freeing. Because when you let go of what no longer serves you, you create space for what truly matters. But don't think for a second that this process is easy. Assessing your needs requires courage. It means being honest with yourself, even when the truth is uncomfortable. It means setting boundaries, even when it upsets others. And it means choosing yourself, even when the world tells you not to. But here's the thing: the more you honor your needs, the more you'll realize that doing so isn't selfish, it's essential. Because when you take care of yourself, you become the best version of yourself. And that version of you has so much more to offer to the people in the world around you. Have you ever found yourself running full speed ahead, only to realize you're chasing something that doesn't truly matter to you? Maybe you've poured your time, energy, and heart into a goal, only to wake up one day and wonder why it doesn't feel as fulfilling as you thought it would. It's like climbing a ladder, only to discover it's leaning against the wrong wall. If that hits a little too close to home, don't worry, you're not alone. Life has a way of sweeping us up in its current, pushing us toward expectations, obligations, and distractions. But here's the thing: if you don't pause to refocus your intentions, you risk spending your life chasing someone else's version of success while losing sight of your own. Let's start with a tough question. Why are you doing what you're doing? Really think about it. Is it because it lights a fire within you, or is it because you feel you should? We live in a world obsessed with productivity and achievement, where busyness is worn like a badge of honor. But being busy isn't the same as being intentional. In fact, many of us mistake motion for progress, filling our days with tasks and goals that don't actually move us closer to what we truly desire. And let's be honest, how often do you stop and ask yourself, is this what I really want? The truth is, most people are too afraid to ask that question because they're scared of the answer. What if the path they're on isn't the right one? What if they've wasted years chasing something that doesn't matter? These fears are real, but they're also the gateway to something greater. Refocusing your intentions begins with clarity. To move forward, you have to understand where you are and where you truly want to go. And no, this isn't about setting surface level goals like earning a certain amount of money or achieving a specific title. This is about digging deeper. It's about asking yourself, what do I value most? What kind of life do I want to create? What legacy do I want to leave behind? These aren't easy questions, but they're necessary. Because if your intentions aren't aligned with your values, you'll always feel a sense of emptiness no matter how much you achieve. But let's not get too serious just yet. Here's a little experiment for you. Picture yourself 10 years from now. You're living your dream life. Everything is exactly how you've always imagined it. Now, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Is it a career milestone, a personal achievement, or maybe a feeling peace, joy, fulfillment? Hold on to that image for a moment. Now, ask yourself, this are the things you're focusing on today moving you closer to that vision, or are they distractions pulling you further away? Be honest. If the answer makes you uncomfortable, good. Discomfort is the birthplace of growth. Once you have clarity, the next step is to eliminate distractions. And let's be real, distractions are everywhere. They come in the form of endless notifications, comparison traps on social media, and even well-meaning advice from people who think they know what's best for you. But here's the thing, distractions don't just waste your time, they dilute your energy. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your intentions, you're saying no to something that does. So let me ask you, what are you saying yes to right now that's holding you back? And more importantly, what would happen if you started saying no? This isn't about being selfish, it's about being intentional. Because when you refocus your intentions, you stop living reactively and start living purposefully. But clarity and focus aren't enough on their own. To truly refocus your intentions, you need courage. Courage to let go of what no longer serves you. Courage to redefine success on your own terms. Courage to pursue what lights you up, even if it scares you. Because here's the truth, when you align your actions with your intentions, you'll face resistance. It might come from others who don't understand your choices. It might come from within in the form of self-doubt and fear. But resistance isn't a sign to stop, it's a sign that you're on the right track. The question is, will you have the courage to keep going? Now, let's talk about momentum. Refocusing your intentions isn't a one-time event, it's a practice. It's about checking in with yourself regularly and making adjustments as needed. Think of it like steering a ship. Even the smallest course corrections can make a huge difference over time. But here's where most people get stuck. They expect to figure it all out at once. They wait for the perfect plan, the perfect moment, the perfect conditions. Newsflash, perfection doesn't exist. If you wait for it, you'll be waiting forever. The key is to start where you are with what you have and trust that clarity will come as you take action. But let's pause for a moment. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to get stuck in the planning phase? We tell ourselves we're getting ready, we're preparing, we're doing our research, but more often than not, this is just procrastination in disguise. So let me ask you this: what's one small step you can take today to align your actions with your intentions? Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Because here's the thing: the longer you wait to take action, the harder it becomes. And the more you allow distractions and fears to dictate your choices, the further you drift from the life you truly want. And let's not forget about gratitude. Refocusing your intentions isn't just about striving for more, it's about appreciating what you already have. It's about recognizing the progress you've made, the lessons you've learned, and the opportunities that have come your way. Gratitude is a powerful tool for shifting your mindset and reconnecting with what truly matters. So before you dive into the next big goal or project, take a moment to reflect. What are you grateful for right now? And how can you build on that foundation to create even more meaning and purpose in your life? Imagine carrying a heavy suitcase everywhere you go. At first, it's manageable. You think, I can handle this, but as days turn into weeks and weeks into years, the weight grows unbearable. What if I told you that suitcase isn't packed with essentials for your journey, but with old wounds, regrets, and unspoken emotions? You've been dragging it along, convincing yourself you need it, when in reality it's been holding you back. So let me ask you, why are you still carrying it? Why not set it down, open it up, and release what no longer serves you? If the very thought makes your heart race, you're not alone. Releasing isn't easy. It's raw, vulnerable, and sometimes terrifying. But it's also the only way to heal. The process of release begins with recognition. You can't let go of something you refuse to acknowledge. Think about it. How often do we bury our pain, distract ourselves from our fears, or convince ourselves we're fine? But here's the truth: ignoring something doesn't make it disappear. It only makes it fester. Imagine a wound you refuse to clean. Eventually, it becomes infected. Emotional wounds are no different. They demand to be acknowledged. They surface as anxiety, anger, or even physical ailments, whispering, "Pay attention to me," yet most of us respond by pushing those feelings back down. So let me ask you, what are you avoiding? What emotions have you buried so deeply that they become part of your identity? And more importantly, are you ready to face them? Acknowledging pain isn't weakness, it's strength. It takes courage to look at your scars and say, "This hurt me," but in that moment of honesty, something powerful happens. You reclaim your narrative. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and start becoming the author of your healing. Yet, this is where many people get stuck. They fear that facing their pain will break them. But let me tell you, it's not the pain that breaks you, it's the avoidance. When you suppress your emotions, they don't go away, they simmer beneath the surface, shaping your thoughts, actions, and relationships. The only way to free yourself is to release them. But how do you release something that feels so deeply ingrained? The answer lies in understanding. Pain is often rooted in stories we tell ourselves, stories of betrayal, failure, or unworthiness. These stories become chains binding us to the past. But here's the twist: you're not obligated to keep believing them. You have the power to rewrite your narrative. Ask yourself, what story am I holding on to? And why? Maybe it's a story of being wronged or a belief that you're not enough. Whatever it is, challenge it, question its validity. Because most of the time, these stories are built on assumptions, not facts. And once you see them for what they are, their hold on you begins to weaken. Now, let's shift gears for a moment. Have you ever tried to clean out your closet and found yourself holding on to clothes you haven't worn in years? You think, what if I need this someday? But deep down, you know it's just taking up space. Emotional baggage works the same way. We hold on to it out of fear of letting go, fear of the unknown, fear of who we might become without it. But here's the irony: the very things we cling to for security are often the things that keep us stuck. So here's a challenge: what would happen if you let go? If you release the resentment, the guilt, the shame, would it leave a void, or would it create space for something new, something better? But releasing isn't just about letting go, it's also about forgiveness. And let's be honest, forgiveness is one of the hardest things to do. not because it excuses what happened, but because it requires us to confront our pain and choose to move beyond it. Forgiveness isn't about the other person, it's about freeing yourself. It's about saying, I refuse to let this define me anymore. Yet many of us resist forgiveness because we confuse it with forgetting. But forgiveness isn't about erasing the past, it's about reclaiming your future. So let me ask you, who or what are you holding on to that no longer deserves space in your heart? And what would it feel like to finally let it go? As you move through this process, remember that healing isn't linear. Some days you'll feel lighter, as if a weight has been lifted. Other days, the pain may resurface, making you question if you've made any progress at all. But here's the thing, healing isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. It's about showing up for yourself even when it's hard. It's about choosing over and over again to release what no longer serves you. And in doing so, you create space for something extraordinary: growth. Growth isn't just about moving forward, it's about transforming. It's about turning your pain into purpose, your wounds into wisdom. Think about a broken bone, it heals stronger than it was before. The same is true for your spirit. Every time you release and heal, you become more resilient, more compassionate, more alive. But this transformation doesn't happen overnight. It requires patience, self-compassion, and a willingness to embrace the journey. So let me ask you, are you willing to do the work? Are you ready to step into the person you were always meant to be? As you step back and reflect on the journey you've just uncovered, remember that the power to transform your life lies within your hands. The process of releasing, healing, and realigning your intentions is not about perfection, but about progress, about choosing every single day to shed what no longer serves you and embrace the limitless potential of who you're becoming. Healing is a profound act of courage, a declaration that your past does not define you and your future is yours to shape. So let today be the moment you stop carrying the weight of yesterday, the moment you breathe deeply, and the moment you commit to moving forward with clarity, purpose, and a heart that's finally free.